And welcome to fall, folks. Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to the daily space weather. If you haven't seen it before, it's time to see it now. Looking at the Himawari 8. Welcome to fall. Summer is officially over, folks. It ended at 3:50 my time, and I'm located in the Lehigh Valley. That's eastern Pennsylvania. And there's the latest view from the Himawari 8. Thanks, Japan, for launching that spacecraft. That is a good one. Let's look at the sun. In 193 angstroms, we see a giant, very well-defined Earth-facing coronal hole. And apparently some folks are agreeing with us about the Earth-facing coronal mass ejection. We'll cover it in a minute, but first, we'll look at 304 angstroms. There's a view from there, giant plasma filament just setting over the northwestern limb. There's a view of that. That's about, I don't know, 6 Earths in diameter, maybe? Now, here's a coronal mass ejection that we covered 3 days ago. We saw this about 2 hours after it occurred, and we covered it on our daily space weather videos. Apparently, spaceweather.com noticed it too. And it took NOAA about 36 hours to notice this. Anyway, 10.7 centimeter radio flux back up to 68, I believe it is now. So still solar minimum conditions. Let's look at some more data, but first, let's talk about prepping. How about the military manuals we have linked below the video? Hundreds of them, including Basic Cold Weather Manual. Check out the links, talking about everything from clothing to how to winterize gear, small unit living, how to stay warm. It's the full manual, folks. So check that out. Let's also talk about David Dubine's new book, Climate Revolution. Another way to prep, folks, is to become politically engaged and advocate for good public policy, as you don't want your government to waste money, like ours does, when they try to track us down and fine us for, I don't know, weeds or something. I don't know what it is. I've been fined, folks, by the most scum-sucking branch of government, local code enforcement. Barely even considerable as government, local code enforcement has tried to fine me $40. And I don't even own the property, and I'm not even a tenant. So it's quite a non sequitur. I'll have to go see the magistrate today about that foolishness. In any case, advocate for good public policy, such as tell your local Congress people to defund Harvard University and its ScopeX geoengineering program. Things like that. Basically, tell your government to shrink, for goodness sakes. It's wasting so many resources. The governments of the world are, and always have been, the primary waster of resources. Let's look at the real-time solar wind. Phi angle has been steady around 300 for an extended period here. We're looking at 12 hours or so with a steady phi angle, so that when the connection to that new coronal hole happens, it's going to be violent all at once, and it's going to last for a long time, which is an earthquake risk. BT-BZ, we have a pretty high BT. That's the black line here. BT is pretty high. BZ is also well in the positive mode. That's going to suddenly shift at the same time as the phi angle. When you see it around 180, that's the coronal hole magnetic connection. And there's the solar wind density, 2.58 protons per cubic centimeter, pretty low there. Solar wind speed, pretty low also. In the low 300s, 305 kilometers per second. Solar minimum conditions. Planetary K index at 0 for the majority of the past 27 hours there. Let's look at cosmic rays. First, we'll look at apatity and Barentsburg. There are the monitors there in those two locations. Next, we'll look at the Athens neutron monitor. There's the data from that. Fairly normal range there for the current high levels of cosmic ray flux. Next, we'll show you Mexico City. There is the last 30 days at Mexico City's cosmic ray monitor. Here's Moscow, where we saw a very large range in the past 2 days. Coming off very low levels, at least in the past, as far as in terms of the past 2 weeks. And the highest spikes in the past 30 days have occurred in the past 24 hours, folks. Finally, we'll look at Oulu, Finland. Thanks again for teaching me how to pronounce the word Oulu. Please leave a comment if you are viewing the videos from Finland, Norway, Sweden, or other Nordic countries. Let us know if you want us to buy Greenland. Shout out, Vikings! There's DOMC Antarctica. And there's DOMB Antarctica getting more back into a mode of returning data as spring hits the southern hemisphere. Welcome to the post-equinox part of the year, folks. And there's the GOES electron flux. We see pretty precipitous dips. Looks like a little bit of an electron shortage going on right now up there. Next, we'll look at the total electron content forecast. And we're going to see pretty low levels here. We don't expect to see very many GPS errors. Very low levels of electron flux. Very low levels. Practically no GPS errors even at the equator on this day of the equinox. Let's look at magnetosphere movies. First, the velocity. That's 4 hours of data. And I've got an idea. I've got to step away during the next movie. But I'll be back before it's done playing. Happy spring to the southern hemisphere and happy fall to the northern hemisphere. Please let us know if you're expecting an early winter like we are. And there's a density. That's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Department. Ah, that's good times. There's a density. We see a pretty steady thing going on here in the magnetosphere. Nothing to write home about. Pressure looking like solar minimum conditions, very low levels. As the sun passes the sun's equator passes directly over the Earth's equator. By the way, that happened at 3:50 Eastern Daylight Time. And we were streaming live during it, believe it or not, folks. Next, we'll look at ground geospace magnetic perturbations. And we only really look at the globe view here. And we let 4 hours of data play. Where were you when the sun's equator passed over the Earth's equator? Where will you be when Deneb sets? Do you have any exciting plans for the fall? Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where we'll be in 1 week. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from a different solar system, galaxy, plane of existence, or universe, as we are interested in your cosmology. If you are, just coming off the new moon there in 1 week. If you want to read about the equinox and so on, it just happened an hour ago, folks. At least an hour from when we made this video. And thanks for tuning in, those viewers who were at the premiere, and those who were not at the premiere, please leave a comment, as it does something with something, and something or other, something, something. Transcribe that, Google, something, something. Here's where stuff is above my head. We have a We have a moon reaching its apex here. A nice crescent moon going on up there. Good times. I'd like to draw in the ecliptic and face my sky chart to the south, as that's the way my couch faces. So in-the-sky.org/skymap2. Create your own sky map. Figure out what's going on above your head. And here's the ionosphere map, courtesy Australian Government Meteorology Department. It's looking pretty highly discharged on the nighttime side, pretty highly charged on the sun side. So yeah, that's it's a little anomalous right now, folks. It's a solar minimum condition kind of ionosphere discharge charge scenario happening with a weak magnetosphere. There's the latest image. That's 8:15 UT. Pretty big charge disparity there going on between the sun and the nighttime side, the sun-facing side versus the nighttime side. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If you want to read about what the equinox is, it's the time when the sun passes directly over the Earth's equator. In other words, there's a point on the planet where at noontime the sun's rays are perpendicular to the surface of the planet. We've got links to all these articles in there, as well as this Wikipedia diagram. If you don't understand the things like solstices and equinoxes, it's all caused by the Earth's tilt, folks. And again, links below the video to these sites. Also, let us know if you like the new format. We've changed it around a little bit. And we're now in the earthquake rundown mode. Last 24 hours of earthquakes include this 4.5 at Afghanistan. This one happening about 19 hours ago from the time this video was shot. And if you're in Afghanistan, don't get shot. That quake at 210 kilometers deep. I would remain on risk if I were near that quake. Here's a 4.6 in Japan. Looks like an earthquake lull, really. 4.5 in Albania. And there was a damaging quake there. Somehow we missed it. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. There might have been some overlap with our video and the time frames here, as we only look back 24 hours. 4.6 at Mexico. 4.2 at Indonesia. That one at extreme depth, 528 kilometers. Also a 4.1 far west of there, also in Indonesia. .3 at Chile, that one happening only half an hour ago, as well as a 5.2 in Micronesia while we were doing show prep and or raging about Google and YouTube and Facebook's horrific software. Let's look at the windy.com pressure maps, which one of our viewers astutely noted that there was a perfect alignment of high pressure zones around the equator. Actually, around the 40-degree latitude mark, I should say. We have like an ongoing low zone here right on the equator, and anticyclones right around my latitude, actually. Anyway, there's where things will be in about 24 hours, depending on when you view the video. Time date stamps are on there. Volcano rundown includes Shiveluch exploding over there on Kamchatka. On the opposite side of the Pacific, producing a 23,000-foot ash plume. Currently, an 11,000-foot ash plume. Mount Aso. What is going on? What is happening? Mount Aso, volcanic cloud unknown. Sakurajima erupted and produced a 7,000-foot ash plume. Tokono, 7,000-foot plume there. Here's something I can't pronounce. Seismopochnoi in the Aleutian Islands. Apparently seismicity has decreased, although there are low-level sulfur dioxide emissions being observed when conditions permit. Now you can look that up on windy.com, but we don't want this video to be too long, so we're not going to do it today. Perhaps if that stays on the list, we will look at it later. Apparently this was lowered to a yellow advisory alert. And there's also a refilling of the crater lake. So that's pretty interesting. It sounds like they're downplaying it a little bit to me. Please leave a comment if you have an opinion on smAsho. smAsho. You think that's a Russian name, folks? smAsho. Not smAsho. I apologize. Some difficult words to pronounce here. At least it's not German. German's got the longest words of all, if you weren't aware. Also, Revenador on the list at 16,000-foot ash plume there, and Nevados de Chilean, please don't do the Fosbury flop over that caldera, as it's producing a 13,000-foot ash plume, and that's a bigger high jump than I'm capable of doing. Let's go back to space data. The GOES magnetometer is looking smoother than it's been, and we're going to see continued oddities in the GOES magnetometer. Let's make sure we have the newest images here. We're going to look at the Gong 2. This is the line of sight field plot here, where you can see the folds in the B field. And this is what happens when the sun gets to a little higher levels of activity. Part of the reason why we keep seeing the northern solar polar field change has to do with just the shape of it. The coronal hole in the north solar pole is just slightly oddly shaped now, and it's kind of remaining in this elliptical shape. And that's part of the reason why it appears from our perspective to constantly continue to shrink and grow. It is important as far as the sun's activity. Let's look at the other view that we look at most days, the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And there's that environment. That's a more I don't know, intuitive view, I guess I'll say. That's 1 hour and 8 minutes behind. Just so you know, that's a little old. You know, this data takes a while to compile, as it requires about at least 53 magnetometers, 51 of them on Earth, and one on stereo A and one on stereo B, probably multiple on stereo A and stereo B. In any case, there is some activity kicking off there. If you look at the far side of the sun, you notice the North Pole is charging up part of the current sheet here. That's the North Solar Polar Field depicted in green. And that could indicate the solar polar field increasing in strength, or it just could increase activity. It could just be increased activity from the south of the equator region, which will pull that field down and allow it to be charging the current sheet. You can't know until you can see it, though, so that's some suspense for you in the next few days. Keep an eye on stereo A's, coronagraphs, and so on if you want to see what's going on with that. Value-added service coming in the form of the AccuWeather Doppler radar. And we thank you, AccuWeather, for actually improving this. We had to drop you from the videos there for a couple of days, but now you're back because this is actually a better, more global view. You globalists, you. Please leave a comment if you're worried about the globalists shutting down Alex Jones. And there's the zoom on the U.S., whatever, a bunch of rain over Lake Ontario and Lake Erie and so on. I'm over it. Let's look at more data. Here's a lightning situation, courtesy lightningmaps.org. And let's look at some better stuff. And there's the, let's see, that's the Con East view, I think it is. Let's see here. Whatever. Anyway, it's the NASA GOES shortwave satellite showing us the clouds on a large view of the western world there. Let's move on to the water vapor map. And there's the water vapor scenario. Tropical system there, north of the Caribbean. We're going to zoom in on it. Pretty violent activity going on there in the South Central Atlantic, not a good place to be on a boat with hunks like Marky Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney. Unless you like things like 50-foot seas. Look at the convergence happening there. That is some violent weather going on in the South Atlantic. Hey, YouTube viewers, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as we are as shadow banned as it gets. Check out our older videos. We did live stream at the exact time of the equinox, if you were wondering. And while it took a little bit of effort, it still happened regardless. And thanks, patrons, you're the associate producers of the show, keeping this thing in existence and causing it to expand in unexpected ways. So, shout out, patrons. More good stuff and more changes are coming to the channel on the regs. If you want to see robotic hand motions, we're doing it. And thanks, Smash Team. For viewing, please share on your social media and stay tuned for one bonus feature. We're going to continue on despite memory failures. Oh, geez. Let's look at crypto real quick. And there's the 1-year chart of Bitcoin according to Coinbase. Looks like a support level right around 10,000 to me. Here's the Ethereum quote based on Coinbase's exchange. I've always thought Ethereum was a better call than Bitcoin in the first place. This one looks like it has a lot more upside potential to me. Keep in mind, I am not currently licensed to give you investment advice. We did see a spike in oil prices, and that is not something you typically see during an economic downturn. That's an indication of things like real inflation. Gold price up $12.30. Silver